All right, guys, welcome to the year 2022. This is the first episode, and here we go. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast, and I gotta tell you, welcome to 2022. This is the first episode of the year. Had a little hiatus there. I really apologize about that. I'll explain it in just a minute, but this is Jim Huntsman, the host, and I'm coming at you from the Broken Town studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. And like I said, guys, sorry about that hiatus. We had some shows and stuff lined up to do, and if you've been following us on Instagram, you know we had kind of like the snowpocalypse from hell come in and absolutely dump all over everything, to include my recording plans. My internet was down for a long time. In fact, I couldn't even get into the studio because the snow was piled up in front of the door. It was bad, and so we finally we were stuck up here for like 4 days up on the mountain where our homestead is, and I had to have my buddy Cody came out this last Saturday, and he dug like more than half of the driveway out, because I got this long ass driveway, and it was just like it was piled up in snow, and then to top it off, an avalanche came down off of these cliffs on my property and covered it even more. And so Cody was down there with his big old backhoe trying to dig me out, spent all day working his tail off, and then I'm coming from the top with the tractor. It's just been a nightmare. So I've never seen this much snow in North Idaho. Apparently we broke every record since 1971. And here we are, mid-January, and now what's crazy is it's raining out there as we're speaking right now. It's like 43 degrees and raining. So anyway, that's my soapbox, my complaints for kicking off the new year here. I want you guys to know there's a few things that we are working on, and I'm going to need your help to help get this stuff out there. There's a lot going on, and part of this episode, I've got my buddy Chris on. I'm going to introduce him in just a minute. But there's a lot going on with in terms of the anti-hunting movement and some of the petitions and legislative actions that are being introduced against hunting in multiple different states. And it's just, I want to say it's the typical winter bullshit that happens, but it's kind of even more so than just what is the norm and what is typical. And so we're going to cover a lot of that. And a lot of the episodes that are coming up are going to be revolving around that topic, because we have to, and I promised you guys that we were not going to take our foot off the gas when it comes to like our friends in Washington and this bear hunting, losing the spring bear hunt this coming season with their commissioners making that decision. So we're not taking the gas off the pedal. There's a few things we're working on. I'm really excited to announce what is going on with this Howl For Wildlife organization that was just started, and that's kind of the topic of tonight. But before we do that, I need what I need you guys to do. If you're listening and you support the mission, you support our message, and you support this show, you're crazy enough that you somehow enjoy my podcast, which I don't understand, but at the same time I deeply appreciate. I really appreciate all you guys, which, by the way, 2021 was just a freaking awesome, epic year for the podcast, for the show. We saw tremendous growth, especially during hunting season. Downloads were through the roof. We're getting like just north of 15,000 downloads a month, which for a dude like me that started this podcast just thinking, a few friends would tune in is absolutely amazing. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. It was a great year for us. The show really grew. I feel like there's things that we do with this show that are actually making a positive impact, and that's the goal, to help further that. Because I'll be totally honest with you guys, this thing with us moving out here on the homestead and all the work that's involved, and the stress of putting out episodes each week, I was kind of contemplating earlier in the year of 2021 whether or not I wanted to keep it going after 2021. And the reason I did is because of the response from you guys, and the magnitude of the downloads and the messages I received, and the encouragement that we received about what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. And because of that, we're going to keep this thing going. I feel like we've started, somewhat of a movement, and this movement is going to continue, and it's going to get stronger, and it's going to grow. In order for that to happen, the help that I would ask from you guys is to take an episode that really impacted you, and maybe share it with somebody who you feel like it would impact them. If you've got an episode in mind, whether it's this one or any of the 100 or so episodes we've done in the past, or a School of September series, or something along those lines, if you guys feel it could make a positive impact on somebody else, if you don't mind sharing it with one or two people, that goes a long way. Also, writing reviews on Apple Podcasts is really helpful for us. Please jump on there and write a good review for us if you support us. Again, it makes a big difference. You could write a review on Podbean as well, but the big one is on that Apple Podcast. And then follow us on Instagram. That's an indicator for organizations that look at our platform and consider partnering with us for as we move into. I'm not talking about sponsorship stuff. I'm talking about partnering with us and taking us serious as a platform as we move forward with this fight against anti-hunting and the anti-hunting movement and the Humane Society of the United States and all these groups we're going to talk about. That helps us a lot. That helps us a lot if we've got a big Instagram following. And you guys know me. I don't know shit about Instagram. It's new for me, and so we don't have the audience following on Instagram is not consistent with the audience downloads on the podcast, and so we want to try to balance that out and make it show a little bit more for going forward. So if you're on the Insta and you're not following the Western Huntsman, please check us out and give us a follow there. And last but not least, I am going to announce this because I need you guys to help keep me accountable, because I've tried to do this multiple times in my life and I always drop the ball and just stop doing it. But I am in the middle of writing a book that is kind of putting all of this together in a way that what I'm trying to do is create a message that makes sense, that's simplified, that every hunter can appreciate and actually not die of boredom reading. But it's going to have action items as to how to help hunters going forward, and it has a lot of different directions that it is going, and that is for a reason. But that book is I'm announcing it here, so you guys make sure, if you don't hear anything about me writing a book in the next few months, make sure you're hitting me up and keeping me accountable, because I'm making the commitment now, and I want that book out there, and I think it's going to help a lot of people and help the hunting community just in general, having that out there. So those are about all the announcements for now. Again, I can't thank you guys enough. I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me personally as a listener, and it's just really humbled me. It was such a great year for us. And because of that, guys, we're going to keep this going, and thank you so much. I really enjoy doing it, so it makes it worth it when there's people behind us and support there. And we're going to keep rolling, folks. We're on a roll, and we're going to keep building. So thank you very much. If you guys have any suggestions or ideas of how to make the show better, hit me up at jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Send me an email, and I'll check it out. I try to respond to all of the emails that I receive, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of that. So, guys, with that, I want to introduce the guest I have tonight. This is somebody that I've actually wanted to have on the show for quite some time. His name is Chris McKelvy, and he's down in California. And him and I connected. Chris, I think we connected like a year ago when this whole SB 252 bear ban came out in California. I think that's when you and I first connected. and we've been kind of talking and staying in contact since. And he's been keeping me apprised of things, all the shenanigans coming out of California. That's been really helpful. And with everything going on, I thought it'd be a good time to bring him on and introduce him to you guys. And I appreciate you coming on, Chris. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. And I mean, I wouldn't say all of the shenanigans out of California, because I mean that's a full-time job, and I don't think you have time to listen, and I don't have breath to keep you filled in on everything.
Man, you make a good point. That is a valid point.
It's pretty much nonstop and from every direction down here. But I mean, it's yeah.
Well, like you said before we started recording too, it's not just hunting. Like the shitstorm of craziness that comes out of some of these big cities in California is nuts. So I don't know. I like I told you before, I feel bad for you guys, man. It messes with a guy's life.
Yeah, it's a culture shock for me too, honestly. I'm sort of used to it now, but I grew up in people, technically I'm in Northern California right now. I live in San Francisco, I do not live in San Francisco. I live just north of San Francisco in Santa Rosa, and people still want to call it Northern California. I don't. I'm offended by that. I grew up in Redding. It's not the best place ever, but there's still, I mean, everywhere's got its faults. There's plenty of trashy people and meth and all that good stuff up there in that area. But there's recreation, endless recreation up there. I mean, you could leave town and drive, 15 minutes and there's places to go shooting, or, you could be hunting, or, four-wheeling, hiking, whatever it is. And here everything's private property. And, if somebody sees you with a gun, you're probably going to be talking to the cops in short order. So it's definitely different down here. I mean, it's like I said, it's been a culture shock. And I mean, I've been down here for over 20 years at this point. So yeah.
Would it surprise you to know that, like, when I go into the Home Depot over there in Sandpoint, Idaho, it's about half an hour drive from me, that like half the people you see in there are openly packing firearms. Like, it's just
no, not at all.
It's normal shit.
Yeah, not the least bit surprised, and honestly, it's so I'm like we said before we started, and I think I told you this a couple times. We're headed for Idaho come this summer. It's been something that I've wanted to. I never thought I would do for the longest time when I was younger, but more and more over the last couple of years, just watching the way everything's gone, like we started looking at anywhere but here, you know what I mean? And we kind of settled on, we're looking at the Eagle area, somewhere in that Treasure Valley, and I'd be happy with a little more rural, but my wife likes the idea of staying a little closer to civilization. So we'll see. I mean, that's where we're going to set down, but we'll see where how everything shakes out. And over a few years, maybe I can drag her further and further into the woods.
Yeah, you need to get her out a little bit, man, and make her more comfortable with the backcountry up here in Idaho. It's always an interesting thing to me, because obviously I'm sure you're like on some Idaho forum type groups where, obviously there's a lot of grumbling here in Idaho about all the Californians moving here, right? Yep. And everybody knows it. It's not like some surprise or anything. It's not a secret. And it's not just an Idaho thing too. I mean, it happens in all the other western states and everything. So the question I always have when somebody talks about that is, like when you're, do you feel when you're in California now, because California just seems like this foreign thing to me, and I've got some friends down there. I've got friends that like you, and I've got Guy from Western Contours, and that have opened my eyes to let me know that there's actually normal freaking people in California, but from a distance, it sometimes seems that it's not that way, and when you're in California and you're looking at like the rest of the country and you're considering moving out, like, does it just seem like California is this totally hopeless lost cause and there's no getting it back? Or is that why everybody's wanting to leave? Or what's going on with that?
I don't want to say yes, that it does seem that way, but I mean, we'll put it this way. I mean, the reason that we're having this conversation right now is because of the hunter activism, right? I mean, that's what we're really talking about is the the effort that we're putting forth to try to stop all this craziness with all the bans that are going on. And I don't care where I end up, you know what I mean? I still have friends that are stuck here for whatever reason, their wives, families here, and they're not leaving, and or whatever, you know what I mean? So regardless of where I end up, and just like right now, I mean, so Arizona's fighting to keep the ban. I haven't read it verbatim yet, but my understanding is that they're out for an all-out predator ban.
Yeah, that's kind of what I read. That's kind of what I read.
I don't think it includes coyotes, but they're after all the big ones, all the big ticket items, the bobcats, bears, and mountain lions.
Yeah.
In that Zoom that you had to cut out of earlier, Colorado they had one just kick off, and I believe it's mountain lions for sure, lynx, which is silly because you already can't hunt lynx in Colorado,
right?
Is my understanding.
Yeah.
Bobcats, and I don't know if it goes further than that to other predators. Washington's trying to get their spring bear back, and they just launched another all-out attempt to ban California bear hunting. So, we're, regardless of where it is, we have to dissolve the state lines in our head. We have to forget about what brand camo we're wearing, what your preferred method of chase is, whether you're a trad bow or a compound bow shooter, whether you're shooting long range or if you're shooting, grandpa's old rifle with open sights.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a hunter, and even if you're not a hunter, if you value true biodiversity on the landscape, if you want to go out and see all spectrum of animals, not just a shit ton of predators. And even at that's going to stop if they get their way, you know what I mean? You're going to see a bunch of predators for a while, then you're going to see a bunch of mangy, skinny predators, then you're not going to see any more predators. That's just how it's going to work out. They're not going to tell you that, you know what I mean? But that's what the eventuality of their success would look like.
The data's there to support that. I mean, it's not like that is hard to find information. That is exactly what happens. And you make a really good point in a sense that, when the data's there and they're still running about and talking about all these predator bans that they want to, it's all emotionally charged stuff, right? I mean, it's just all emotionally charged stuff. I kind of lost my train of thought there because I've got this Howl For Wildlife website flashing in my face here, and I was wanting to get to that, but I want to get back to you for a minute and talk about give us an idea of how you grew up and how you got into hunting and let's take it from there.
Yeah. So the short version of the story, to keep it from getting too long, I'm almost of the generation of hunter that wasn't. My grandfather was a hunter, but he was also severely asthmatic. And this is my dad's dad. The last deer that he shot almost killed him. He hunted in the Alturas area, so Sierras. Big country. I don't know all the details of it, if it was a bad shot or if it was just one of those bucks that just doesn't want to die, and it ran downhill forever. And the pack out, plus the asthma, he had to make the decision. He's like, I can't ethically do this because it's going to come to the point where either I kill myself trying to get these animals out, or I'm not going to be able to recover them. And that's, that's wanton waste, right? None of us want that. Any ethical hunter, that's the last thing you want, is to have to, look down there and say, well, that's, I can't do anything with that. That's beyond my capabilities. So he stopped hunting before I ever was in the picture. I mean, my dad was young when he quit hunting. So, nobody on my mom's side. I got some bird hunters, but, it just never, I have pictures. I have disposable camera pictures I took when I was a kid of deer. I mean, they're all horrible and blurry, you know what I mean? But I've been chasing these things. It's in my DNA, you know what I mean? I've been chasing these things as long as I can remember. I just didn't have the avenue to turn it into hunting until my mom got remarried when I was 15 or 16, and my stepdad, traditional generational hunter, you know what I mean? His dad, gave him the first rifle he bought from his dad's general store when he was 12, a Savage model 99 and 300 Savage. He gave to my stepdad when he started hunting. And when I came into the picture, it became mine. And so I'm kind of that weird, not quite adult onset, because I was still a teenager, but I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up around it. But at the same time, with that, the family that I fell into, I kind of, fell into the swing of the generational hunter.
Yeah.
So it's, and I've been listening to the Divide and Conquer episodes that you and Guy and Joe did, and it's been interesting to hear those and some of the stuff you guys were talking about, because it's making things click in my head. But like the way that I looked at things before, I watched the hounds go away, and I wasn't worried about it at all in California, because I was convinced. I knew a couple of houndsmen, and that year actually that we lost it was the first year that I ever did it, that I ever had the opportunity to do it. And so it was even worse when I watched it go, because it was awesome. I loved it. I was thinking about getting into it, and then it was gone, and I didn't do anything to stop it. And it was kind of an eye opener to me, because, looking at it like this is the way it's always been, kind of like you guys were saying in those episodes, that's just a lot of those traditional hunters or generational hunters look at it like this is the way things have always been, and it's never going to change. But it's changing. I mean, it has changed. It's already happened, and we're scrambling to put the pieces back together and figure out what, the rug's gone, the rug's out from underneath of us, and what happened. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a big eye opener for me, that it's not, this isn't guaranteed. And I've got two young boys. I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And, if they have any desire to follow, in my footsteps and continue this lifestyle, I got to do everything I can to make sure that it's still there. I mean, I got to do everything I can to make sure that I'm not teaching them to be a poacher by taking them out hunting, you know what I mean? But to make sure that it's there for them also. So it's just, like I said, we got to dissolve the state lines, squash all the squabbling and bickering about, whatever, whether you want to sit in a tree stand, whether you want to chase hounds, whatever as long as where you're doing it doesn't have a problem with you doing it, I'm good with it. I will be your cheerleader. You know what I mean? I'm going to be over here on the sidelines cheering you on. And if I can do anything to help you, then by all means, just ask. So it's
a great topic, man. I mean, and it's something like you said, Joe and Guy and I have been talking about that. We've got more of those episodes coming up. Nice. We're going to bring on some other people. Guy and I are, and that's an important conversation, because there's two aspects of this. There is learning how to be aware of what's going on and why it's going on. And what I mean by that is, okay, we can all know and hear or see a post on Facebook or something that, okay, there's a new petition in California that wants to ban the spring bear hunt or bear hunting just in general or whatever. But I think it's important that we understand why. Where does this come from? And why are there groups like the Humane Society of the United States, which, by the way, just as a side point, the Humane Society of the United States is my number one public enemy right now. I am so sick and tired of their propaganda, their petitions, their bureaucratic and legislative bullshit that they're introducing to these politicians that don't know anything different, and their shenanigans that they keep. They're coming at hunting in all sorts of different ways through these lies, this propaganda. This group needs to go. Like this, yes. I am so sick 100%. Of being on the defense against the Humane Society of the United States because they've got all this freaking money. I am ready to go on the offense with him, and I've got some ideas as to how we're going to do that as hunters. But that brings me to the second part. Remember, I was talking about there's two sides to this, and there's two ways to go about it. And the one side is what I just mentioned, understanding who it is, understanding where it's coming from, understanding this anti-hunting side of it. And then the second side is understanding what we as hunters need to do to counter these measures. And you nailed it. We have to erase the state lines. We have to forget about being all upset because some non-resident is in our unit hunting. And, somebody's bow hunting versus rifle hunting versus muzzleloading hunting and whose camo's wearing what and blah, blah, blah. Everybody has their favorite gear, and I love all my favorite gear. But, why would anybody in their right mind fight about it? It doesn't matter. it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of everything that we're talking about and what we're up against. This kind of stuff, that is the second side of it. But it's how hunters are going to. I'm sick of the word unify. I'm sick of the word unify because it's like this buzzword that nobody takes seriously anymore. And so we need to come up with another way to have not such a blanket statement as to where hunters are that we're allied against those that are against hunting, or some way to bring that in under a new lens that wakes people up, because it's not a joke, and it's not just a talking point that hunters destroying themselves over their rivalries between gear and method of take and everything that you had mentioned is not a joke. That's serious stuff, and it's destroying us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off on a rant.
No, it happens every time these conversations come up. I was kind of, my wife, like you, my wife doesn't hunt. And honestly, furthermore, she's not really good with bear hunting, but she knows that every year I carry a bear tag, and that one of these days I'm going to put one in the freezer.
Dude, you and me both, man. I haven't gotten a bear.
Haven't had much luck with them, but I saw more bear sign this year, unless I was just, which is entirely possible, just blissfully ignorant to it. And with everything that happened last year, I think I was a lot more keyed into it. But I saw so much bear sign this year. I'm amazed that I did not step on just dozens of them. But it is what it is.
It's crazy, man. Like,
yeah.
Before I bear hunted, I used to see bears all the time. I'd be snooping and pooping right through the woods as quiet as can be, and a bear'd be up in a tree looking at me. Big old bear.
Yeah.
And that happened all the time. Now that I hunt them, which is this is going to be my third season bear hunting. Now that I hunt them, I never see them.
The greatest bear repellent you can have is a bear tag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great point.
Yeah.
So,
but it is, anytime these conversations come up, we spin off down the rabbit hole and, get up on the soapbox and start preaching. I was kind of fishing for my wife to get a little more, she understands, conservation and management is necessary. It's just that it basically just doesn't like the idea of seeing it, but knows that it has to happen. And it's, I went from trying to get a little more information out of her to like, I'm telling her about, like we talked about how horrible everything's going to be if they do flat out ban predator hunting, and how ultimately it's worse for everything. And it's just, we turn a simple conversation into spewing the facts and again on the soapbox, but
interestingly, when you bring that up, it makes me wonder, like somebody like your wife, she's being reasonable about bear hunting because she's married to you, right? She's not somebody who's a hunter, and she's not really an anti-hunter. But were you not a hunter, and you were just somebody that was kind of in that same boat where you're rowing the same direction? You're not really a hunter, you're not really an anti-hunter. But your wife got some information that people were hunting bears, and she didn't like it. Do you feel like she would be more on the anti-hunter side were she not married to a hunter?
No, but that has to do more with, so she grew up pretty rurally. She grew up in the middle of the Sierra Valley in California, which is, they're out in the middle of nowhere. And her dad hunted when she was younger. So it was,
okay.
She's been around it, you know what I mean? So it's, it's not like, she's not a city girl, you know what I mean? So it's not all that, the fact that meat is food, and, they're not just fluffy, cuddly animals and all that stuff is in her head, and she's pretty logical on that point. But I think that side of it, is where our fight or our focus. I don't know, they are the biggest demographic is the non-hunters, right? Not the anti-hunters. We've got the two poles, just like with everything else that's going on right now. You got the two polar opposite sides of everything, but the biggest chunk is in the middle. And it's going to be, one, we got to, as hunters, we got to stop all the petty shit and be together, or we can just kiss this, or we can get every non-hunter we want, and we're still going to kiss this thing goodbye because we can't all get over our shit and just move forward together. But if step two after drop the petty crap and stand together is, I think we need to start combating what HSUS does with all their false. I mean, they're flat out lies. Everything that they put out is lies and propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
We need to present correct facts, but tastefully, and that's again, that's a problem because, or for me anyway, I don't like arguing with somebody that doesn't want to listen to reason or is already set in the opposite, in an opposite state of mind that is wrong based on lies and not factual information. So it's staying calm when you're trying to sway somebody. It's not my strong point, but that's I think that's where this like howlforwildlife.org and things like that like are huge tools that I'm very hopeful will shift the way this whole thing goes.
So let's get into that. That was a good way to transition into that. So there's a new website, and it's called it's howlforwildlife.org. And what this is basically, let me scroll down. I just pulled, whoops, wrong. I've got two laptops open here. Okay. I just want to kind of read, I don't know if it's a mission statement, but it says, who is the pack? If you love the outdoors and want to protect wildlife, then we need you. Regardless of political party, style of hunting, race, gender, or creed, we need you and we need each other to protect what we love. Our strength will be the greatest when we unify our howl. Please join us and start making an impact today. And so I want to kind of get in. Actually, that wasn't what I was. Let's see. North America's wildlife and fisheries are constantly under threat. These threats are often based on misguided emotions, anthropomorphism. Wow, that's a big word for me, dude. Like, I can't say that word. What? Anthropomorphism. Okay, they're going to have to dumb this down for me. I mean, I can't read that, but I'm going to have to look that word up. Misunderstandings and lack of scientific evidence. We aim to protect all wildlife from what could be their destruction if management practices are removed. However, we cannot achieve our goals without the pack coming together as one to Howl for Wildlife. Howl for Wildlife works for the conservation and management of fisheries and wildlife through science-based data with action and advocacy. We'll have more exciting features coming soon, but for now, please join the pack. And I'm assuming that what they mean by joining the pack is just kind of, it's put your email address in there so they can kind of keep you updated, which I did that, but it's like, as of right now, it doesn't look like there's a fee or anything to join.
It's not a fee. So
there's not like a membership fee.
No, you can donate, and that goes to taking action. It's not going to be the hunter version of HSUS where Charles gets whatever it is, Kitty's making like $700,000 a year.
$700,000, and that's just her salary. You can
How does
imagine
a nonprofit pay someone $700,000 a year?
Especially,
is that a crime?
Especially when they talk about how in need and the way that they propagate their messaging for what is needed funding wise and where they're going to spend their money. It's such a scam. It is such a scam.
The Sarah McLachlan songs and the sad puppy dogs at the shelter.
Yeah, don't get me started with
a fraction of 1%.
Yeah. And they do such a good job at it. And so I understand that. Well, actually, before I go there, can you explain what Howl for Wildlife is in your mind, in your eyes, better than how? Because I can't read half the words on there apparently.
So anthropomorphism, I looked it up while you were saying that because I thought I knew, but I wasn't positive, and what does it
mean?
It is the attribution of human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities.
I gotta be honest. That's still advanced for me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, which is, it's exactly what, it's what they do in all their propaganda. So I don't know who it was that got a hold of it, but when we were fighting SB 252, that was the Senate bill that was backed by Senator Weiner last year, trying to out and out ban bear hunting in California.
Yep.
One of the items that they present in trying to get backing for these things is they sent out a survey, and and they do, like, it's all emotion based, and the way they word things is very, I mean, you could put this thing in front of a hunter, and given the are you for it or against it options, we would have voted the exact same way that all these people that voted on this survey that they got voted. But they use questions like, are you pro or against the killing of wet sows, of sows with cubs?
Yeah, I know.
We're all against that, but it's also illegal, so it's everything that they, everything that they're asking is already illegal, but the uninformed majority, they don't necessarily know that, you know what I mean? And they're presenting this survey that they've got where, and I think basically they said that, well, 80% of California, the population of California, based on our survey, is pro the banning of bear hunting out now.
Mm-hmm. Because of the way they presented it, yeah. And
right.
You're exactly right.
So having, organized facts and the ability to actually present people with real scientific data, I think is, once we get to the point of kind of addressing the general public and trying to sway their mindset, I think is going to be one of our biggest tools. Anyway, so California's greatest success, I think, with SB 252 was social media. I mean, honestly, the word got out, and everybody on social media sent it to everybody they knew. I mean, I know people because of this. Like, I mean, you and I, again, we talk a lot more. I think, there was general social media banter before that, comments and laugh at, IG stories or whatever, or just, a comment on whatever post you make. But like,
yeah,
I sent you the petition, the link to the petition, and said, hey, I know that you're pro conservation and hunting, and, I see what you're doing all the time anyway. Can you help us spread the word on this? And I mean, to everybody, anybody I could think of, any hunting company, I mean, even outdoor companies, anything that I could think of that, that anyone that hunted or anything having to do with the outdoors, whether they were just, Joe Schmo on the East Coast, or, I mean, again, any company. There's Skullbound TV. She's been great. She's a bear killing animal, and she's been good. She's got a huge following, and anytime any of these things come up, I'll ship it off to her. There's a number of people that are sending her things for her to repost and help us spread the word. But I think that was the saving grace of it, was that just everybody sent a petition link to everybody they knew, and we got, I mean, what was it? We had 20 something thousand signatures on the petition in 3 days time or something like that. Whatever,
quick, man. It was impressive.
Fast. Yeah. And then it was gone. It went away. Well, this isn't worth our time, so we're not going to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and that was it, is the dissolving of the state lines, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, whether it's like I said, again, if you're a tree stand guy from the Midwest or back East, or, a Western hunter, it doesn't matter. If we lose, you will lose eventually.
Yep.
And I've kind of had some, with Washington's ban, all the attempts that they're getting to get that repealed. I posted something I posted it everywhere I could, again, and I put it into a couple of Facebook groups, and there's a couple of Idaho ones that I'm members of, and just people send me requests and I'll join if it's hunting related. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I like seeing hunting stuff, and it's a good place to share stuff like this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into it with a couple people, and it's, tasteful discussion, trying to sway someone's mindset. What is this doing here? It doesn't belong here. This is an Idaho forum. Like, it does belong here, and here's why. You may have never hunted Washington. You may never plan to hunt Washington. But if they lose this and this stays gone, they use that momentum to roll to the next state. And I promise you, eventually it will be your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Or you will be the one that's next up on the chopping block, and you're going to be the one asking for help. And I guarantee you don't want to hear some guy from, who knows where, Texas, or, California, whatever state, saying, that's not my problem. It's everyone's problem, because, again, the more momentum they gain, the harder it's going to be for the next fight.
Yeah.
So we've got to stay organized, and that's what this is. It's easy to see, because some of these things, when I've seen them, trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's okay. So it's hard. Like, I've actually debated changing my account from a personal to a professional, or whatever the option is. There's two options on the kind of accounts you can have on Instagram, and I just have a regular one. And I'm honestly, I go back and forth about switching it to the other one so I can post a clickable link, because people are lazy. You know what I mean? We've all got stuff, and I mean, we're busy is really what it is. But I mean, we're lazy. If you can take it to where someone just has to click on something and put in their email address, and that's it, you're going to get a lot more response. And that's why the change petitions work, is because all you got to do is put in your email address.
Well, let's talk about that.
Click it.
Let's talk, Chris. I want to talk about that exact thing for just a minute, because in that meeting tonight, and again, I was only on the first 15, 20 minutes or so. But Mike, how do you say his last name? Castillo, the host.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
He was talking about, like, somebody brought up the fact that in 2011, when the Humane Society of the United States, HSUS, was, coming after, what was it, mountain lions or hounds or something, and or maybe it was, no, what it was is the California, is it Wildlife or California Fish and Game, or what is it?
It used to be Fish and Game, but
I know they changed it
to Wildlife.
Yeah, Fish and Wildlife, I think is what it is, something like that. Anyway, they were thinking about doing the bear tags, making the bear tags basically from $1,750 to up to $2,500. I may be a little off on those numbers, but that's basically the general idea. They were wanting to up the bear season tags. They were taking public comment. HSUS puts out this thing where it made it super easy for people just to put in their email address and sign this petition, or sign whatever the comment period was. Maybe there was like this cookie cutter response that HSUS created, and they were just signing their name to it, and they got like 8,000 signatures in a short amount of time. And this is back
and zero hunters responded.
And like zero hunters responded. And so that's what we're up against. They're very efficient. You have to give credit where credit's due. These organizations,
they're good at this. They're better than we are, honestly.
They're very good at this. They're professional lobbyists. They and it doesn't matter if it's HSUS or if it's PETA or Center for Biological Diversity or whoever, but they're very effective, and they're very good at getting their, I always call it rallying their troops. These people that were signing that weren't necessarily California citizens. Or residents. These people could have been anywhere in the United States, or even in from Mexico or whatever, or Canada, or it doesn't matter from where they were. The point is they were very effective at getting a lot of signatures in a very short amount of time. And this is how we end up on the defense all the time. We're never on the offense, and this is what I feel. That something set up like Howl for Wildlife is how it is one way that we can effectively counter their effectiveness. Does that make sense? And I finally found on the page, I was clicking on the wrong tab, but their mission, just real quick, let me run through this so people understand. howlforwildlife.org. Our goal is to provide you with the simplest, most efficient tools to take action on legislative issues that pose a threat to wildlife conservation. Furthermore, Howl for Wildlife will provide you with the resources to get involved with local events, like how to effectively make your voice heard at Wildlife Commission meetings, and how to get pro-wildlife management laws onto the books, just to name a few. So I wanted to get that out there. That's kind of one of the, the bread and butter of what this website is talking about, is how to get hunters that are actively engaged and want to have a voice, because let's face it, a lot of people, not everybody has a podcast, not everybody has a huge following on social media. A lot of us are just average people that like to hunt, and we're passionate about it, and we feel like our voices are never heard, we're ignored, and this is one way to counter that. And all we do is get drowned out by these groups like HSUS. And so that's kind of the gist of what I was trying to get out there, if that makes sense. Do you have anything to add to that? No,
and really that's what Charles has built this to be. Is so right now there's, unless he's got it updated now, he said he was working on it during that Zoom meeting. There's either 3 or 4, I think there's 3 action items right now, and there might be the 4th. And it's stupid simple. I mean, so you sign up, you get yourself logged onto the website, you create your account, and then as long as you're logged on, you go to the take action section on there, and it'll tell you about the current action items. So
there's 4 of them on there now.
So he got Colorado up and added on to it.
Colorado's up.
And it's stupid simple. It's the kind of stuff we need, just like that.
Let me run through
change
one.
Petitions.
Let me run through one, and we can kind of walk through this, because guys, when Chris just said that you just get on there and create an account, that is free. It's totally free.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're asking you to pay anything. There is a donate tab if you want to donate. Okay, so I clicked on that, and then it shows recent action takers. Oh, okay. So here's what it does. When you click on that, it wants you to type your first name, which I'm going to do real quick. Okay, Jim. Whoops, dude, I cannot type tonight. Wow, that was crazy. You should have seen what my last name came out as. Okay, and then last name. And so basically what they're doing is, in order for this to be a legitimate signature to go that counts for your voice, it has to have your first and last name and an email address, which is exactly what organizations like HSUS require. Okay, so I got all that. I got my email address in there. It's got a letter, dear, recipient name goes there. So they're going to fill that in. I am a concerned conservationist. I'm not going to read all that. And then it'll say, sincerely, my name, which will be Jim Huntsman. I'd like to stay informed about... Yeah. And then you just hit the add your Howl button. Boom. I just helped. Gosh, I don't even know which one I did. I think that was the Washington. That was the Washington.
Is it the top one?
It was the middle one.
Okay, yeah, I think that's Washington. And I just did the Colorado one while you were doing that.
Okay.
So now I'm up to date and I've done all 4. And it's literally that simple. You put in your first and last name and your email address. And so a little more information on that. It's not cookie cutter to a point, but it's not the same one every time. At this point, from what Charles was saying on the last Zoom meeting, there's like 3 that go out. Mm-hmm. So it's not the exact same email every time. There's 3 of them. And I think with the Colorado one, it goes, and it's not just going to one place. So depending upon, what the case is, what the action item is, however many people there are that are the decision makers in that case, it sends one to each of them.
Gotcha.
And
that's
there's something
fantastic.
else that he's working on. Yeah. The next phase of what he's trying to do with it is, after you hit send on that, there'll be another prompt to see if you want to make a phone call. And because these people are all, office holders, or, I don't know what all their titles are, but there's someone that has an office. Their phone number is listed somewhere. So he's going to get that programmed in there. And again, like I was saying before, just like the other side, we have emotion. We have emotion that we have to deal with, because this is our life. This isn't just us going, hey, see what that guy's doing? He's having fun. Let's stop him.
Yeah.
We're invested in this. This is the way we live. This is human nature. None of us exist at this point in this day and age without hunting. You know what I mean? Go back to, what was her name? What was the first, Lucy, right? Was that the first, the first humanoid Neanderthal, or what? I can't even remember what Homo habilis, or whichever genus she was. But the first, like, erect walking human. Make that being a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. We look a lot different right now. You know what I mean? This doesn't look like it does, right? I can't say that it might not be better, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that it doesn't end up the same way.
Yeah.
So,
boom.
I don't even know what I was going with that. Okay.
I just
emotion.
signed all 4 of them.
Yeah. Emotion. So there's going to be some kind of coaching points where it makes the phone call for you, and then it's going to say, here's some kind of talking points. So, if you're like me and you're liable to just get on there and start screaming at him because, like, how dare you, or you can get upset, you don't know what to say, you're tongue tied. Here's some talking points. When you're ready, click this button and it'll connect the call. So, we've gone a step further. Now we're sending emails, but he's taking all the legwork out of it. You know what I
That's
mean? You don't
awesome,
have to
man.
go.
I can't find the phone call thing, but that is fantastic.
It's not up and running yet.
Okay, but it's
that's
coming.
like the phase 2.
Okay,
right.
okay, that's going to be cool. And I just, whatever we could do from my end to help this thing grow, I'm open to it, because like you were just talking, it took a lot of the emotion, it took a lot of the work and the legwork out of it. There's a letter written, boom, that's going to count as another signature. And just remember, like 2,000 signatures with emails attached to them can have just a wildly huge impact on these legislative decisions. So I'm getting so excited I can't talk straight, but in the time that you just explained that, I just supported 4 different causes, and that is how we help make a dent in this mess that we're in. I want to take just a second to discuss what you were talking about while I was busy signing there and couldn't. There we go. Yeah, so I helped Arizona hunters with the bear, lion, bobcat issue, the Washington State Wildlife Commission issue, which is the spring bear hunting that they got rid of, California bear management issue, and the Colorado SB 22-031, which is another predator bill. Notice how these are all predator bills.
That's where they start.
Yeah. So anyway, it's one thing that people. I want to take some of this discussion away from. A lot of us get real hung up on this, emotion-based versus science-based, or we get hung up on, the data that we always want to present, and it's more about that because the data's on our side, the science is on our side, so it's an easy place to go, right? But a lot of times we're kind of dropping the ball on the philosophical side of this, and that's kind of one thing that I want to bring up, and it's one of the things that I'm talking about in the book that I'm working on, is some of the philosophical sides of this. And I'll give you a great example. You brought up vegetarians. If the first erect human or whatever started out as a vegetarian, you use some words I don't know how to pronounce. How we would look. and we would look a lot different. You're right. I kind of envision like Carrot Top or something. But the philosophical point to that and side of that is, and I'm just talking to Americans here, as an American, philosophically, I would never want to infringe on somebody's right to become a vegetarian and live that lifestyle. That is their right. That is how God created this country. They can live and make those kind of life choices however they please. Where it runs into a problem is where they want that lifestyle transposed or translated into mine. And where these folks that seem to have this misguided sense that they have some entitled right to tell us that we're wrong and we have to change. And it does go back to, they feel this way because of a lot of emotion, a lack of scientific data, a lack of understanding of the North American model of wildlife conservation and the policies behind that have created one of the most successful wildlife management programs on the face of the earth. And we could talk until we're blue in the face on that topic, and it's not what really is going to move the needle. What is really going to move the needle for us is a philosophical approach and somewhat of an emotional approach. And when I say emotional approach, I don't mean coming at it just like a Karen or something, waving her arms and screaming and yelling and squealing. That's not what I mean. It's okay to have emotion behind it, right? You know what I mean? It's good to have some emotion behind it. And where I get emotional, where emotion comes in for me, is when I feel that my freedom as an American to live the kind of destiny and lifestyle that I want, because that is what the American dream is being threatened by people who don't understand me, and they have a different philosophy and a different opinion as to how people should live, somehow have and think they have the right to take my lifestyle away. Nobody gets to tell anybody else in this country how to live their life. And for me, that is a super important thing. It is a super important thing. I don't care if it's a politician. Politicians work for us. I don't care if it's some commissioner or some well-funded anti-hunting organization. They do not get to tell me, a man who was raised in the freest country on the face of the planet, how to live my life. And philosophically, that's, I think, an important aspect of this argument. Not that a bunch of extreme leftists are going to understand that from, when we're talking about, banning bear hunting. But from our side of it, when we need to look at a philosophical side of it and understand that our country was founded on this belief system, and a lot of people have died protecting that belief system, and because of other people's opinions about what hunting is and what it should be or shouldn't be, does not change my right to pursue my life the way I want to. Does that make sense how I'm trying to explain that?
No, 100%. And while we're on that subject, because it's relevant, thank you for your service. I mean,
thanks, man.
When you figure that into the equation, and I mean, you like you said, look at all the people that have died to make this country what it is,
mm-hmm.
and all the effort that's gone into it. People came here for a reason, and it was to flee, that kind of persecution, the someone else making those decisions for you, to come here to be free and
mm-hmm.
live out their life with their destiny, and make their American dream.
It is.
That's what this country is founded on.
Personal destiny creation.
Yeah.
The government does not provide my life. God gave me this life. I don't need the government.
Yeah.
And now I'm going down way into, people are going to be like, oh man, Huntsman's he's an extremist up there on his mountain. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's just fundamental, foundational, philosophical reasonings for being proud to be an American. And all these people that want to tear down my country and they want to blame us for everything and change our entire system because they feel uncomfortable with the way things are, or they're mad about certain actions that took place because one of the mistakes people make is they try to compare historical events into a modern context, and it doesn't work. You can't compare. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast episode. Getting back to this, it's just this is America. I don't care. You don't ever hear hunters calling up vegans and being like, "Bitch, you need to start eating meat," because that's what I think. That's not how this works. Go be a vegan all you want. I don't care. But don't tell me I can't go hunt and I can't eat meat and pursue my own life. It's not your business. Anyway, rant over, man. Rant over.
Well, and honestly, I mean, I think that there are vegan extremists, right? But I don't. Mm-hmm. The people that are, I think, for the most part, I haven't done all that much personal research on, Kitty and all of her, minions, but they're hypocrites, because I would guess that the vast majority of them eat meat.
Now that's a very relevant and good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that, especially sometimes on my show, we've gotten a little bit aggressive with vegans and putting a lot of blame on vegans, when it's actually vegans are not the problem. There is a very small portion of vegans that give all other vegans a bad name, just like there's a very small percentage of hunters that give all other hunters a bad name, right? They just always seem to be the loudest. But vegans are not our problem. It's anti-hunters. I'll never forget my buddy Bob Lagassa that I had on the show. He was the guy that he was attacked by a grizzly bear over hunting over in Montana, and had him on the show. He sends me this picture of somebody in his Facebook Messenger. This lady, she's got this big poofy hair, and she's wearing a bib that has, a picture of a lobster on it, and she's holding up two lobsters and just smiling ear to ear, all excited to eat these lobsters. And her comment was calling Bob a murderer for hunting elk. Yeah. I mean, the hypocrisy of that. And I think that is where our problem lies. That's where the issues are. It's not necessarily vegans. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because I do need to correct that sometimes.
Well, it's I think that it's, if we really watch, like even with it doesn't matter what it is. We all, I think, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I know I do it, but you kind of make a blanket statement, right, without even really thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of the division within hunters happens, where you kind of, you toss a comment towards a certain group or whatever. And we have to be, if anything, all the political correctness stuff that like I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis here, that I don't know if that's so much of an issue everywhere else in the country, but like it's definitely something that's like a real issue here, that you got to watch out what you say, or it could have negative repercussions, has been kind of helpful to a point, because I feel like I catch some of those things. You know what I mean? I'm like, you make a comment and be like, well, maybe that was not exactly what I meant, or maybe I could see how that could be like, that could make that group,
be offensive,
that make that group feel a little bit, separate, or take offense to it. But it's human nature, you know what I mean? And that's just the way we're used to being, and it's kind of another one of those reprogrammings we have to do to ourselves in this process.
Man, that's really good perspective, man. Something like that is, that's why one of the things I love about doing this podcast is getting perspectives like that, because that really is a point that a lot of people could take into consideration in terms of how they approach or how they deliver things. And I'm so guilty of that. Like, I'm so over political correctness that, to a point where I like don't give a fuck who I'm offended. You know what I mean? Like, it's bad. I don't give a fuck if somebody's offended at something I say. And that's not necessarily always a good thing. Like you were just saying, sometimes there is a better way to do this, and a better approach in what I guess would come out of that is a more effective way to communicate with people that might not understand you if you're too brash. And that's what I've been that way, and I'm guilty of that. In fact, as I'm writing this book, I've found myself like erasing entire paragraphs because I would offend half of the Western Hemisphere. And so, and I don't mind so much, but the point is to make an effective articulation of our point, or our argument or whatever, so that people can listen and understand each other, so there's more cohesion, not to piss each other off. And so that's great perspective, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So getting back to this Howl for Wildlife, what are howl points? Do you know?
So I'm not sure where that's going to go, but it's basically that was one of the things that Charles kind of touched on tonight. But that's something else that's going to happen in the phase 2. But basically, it's just kind of rewarding you for. Are you looking at it right now? Do you actually have points yet? Has it tallied them up for you?
No. Well, wait a minute. Let me refresh this thing.
So all the action items that you've taken, you will get points for them. It's just a matter of, like I said, I don't know if it's tallied them for you or not, but I have 54 points right now. And it's basically, at some point there's going to be incentive, and I don't know if that's going to come in the form of with sponsorship, you know what I mean, or companies kind of getting behind this and donating to it. But I'm imagining, and again, this is just my thoughts on it, because he just said that that's something that's going to come. And it's just an idea to give, just to give people incentive to kind of do this kind of stuff. But if there's going to be like a gear shop or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's just something but it breaks it down at the bottom description, you know what I mean? So I got 10 howl points for the email to Colorado, 10 for California, 2 for signing up for for a meeting, another 2 for another meeting, 10 for Washington, and 10 for Arizona, and then 5 just for joining.
Gosh, so man, I thought I made an account, but apparently I don't have an account set up, or I forgot my password already.
Did you confirm it? You gotta, when you sign up, and then it'll send you a confirmation email, and then you gotta activate it. So you might not be fully activated yet. And it sounds like you type like I do. I put in my email address wrong and had to get a hold of Charles. I was like, hey, I probably did that wrong because I didn't get the confirmation email yet.
Yeah, I don't have a
I had
confirmation
a
email.
spelling error.
It confirmed that I took action for those 4 action items, but I don't have a confirmed. Let's see, registration. I'll fix that later. Anyway, it's throwing me way off here because I get all bent out of shape about stuff like that. Oh man, what did I do? Okay.
I didn't get my points.
I want my points. No. No, that's awesome, man. I think this is what we need, is something like this, and this is one of those things that a lot of people talk about putting together to help hunters have just like a general, a place to launch all this from, a centralized place like this website. So this is awesome. Is there? Do you have like any idea? Besides, the phone calls and stuff like that, I'll do those. When he gets those phone calls up, I'll record it and make a podcast out of it. But no, that's awesome. What is there anything else coming down the pike that people should know about with this?
Not that I'm aware of at this point, but like I said, I mean, I know he's been working on this since we, since we dealt with
Senator Wiener.
SB 252. And that's the other thing is, so those things are great if you see them coming around, but I don't know that everybody knows this. Don't donate to them, because all that money goes to change.org. You know what I mean? And I mean, I guess to a point it helps them do this, but I mean, because I signed that petition, I get other emails from change.org, and I see more anti-hunting petitions come through there than pro-hunting petitions.
Right.
So obviously, if, sign the ones that you're behind, but don't give them any money. Something like this, or your, whatever your Sportsman's Alliance or, any of those kind of things are a much better place for you to send your money than change.org, because that's not, you're not helping us. You're helping somebody that doesn't have a side.
Yep.
So
I get some crazy ones off of change.org. Like,
I can't figure out a way to comment in there, and it's probably for the better.
I know. I want to respond. Like, what do you mean?
Like, this is totally based on fiction, and you people need to wake up.
What kind of sci-fi life are you living in to think that people like me would support something like that? Grow up. That's crazy. That's I'm glad you said that. So donate. If you guys want to donate, there is a donate tab for Howl For Wildlife that I would assume that money is just kind of going in to help make this website possible. That kind of stuff. Where does that kind of funding go?
Yeah, it's going to go towards things where we actually, take action on these things. And again, I mean, I think you should try to get Charles on, because this is his brainchild, and
well, if you know Charles, tell him I'd love to have him on.
I will. I'll shoot him a message as soon as I actually messaged him a couple times, because I got an error message when I filled out the Colorado one. So I've been kind of talking to him while we're talking right now. But it's the more people we can get on this, the better, because it's going to help us. Like I said, I mean, that, coast to coast, I've sent it to people in Alberta, Canada, that I know, virtually through Instagram. I've posted it everywhere that I could think of. But the more people we have on this, just to be able to flood those, senators or, wildlife office, whatever these people's titles are, the people that are making the decisions on these things, we just start blowing up their emails. And once he's got the phone calls linked to it, start flooding them and talking to them. It's going to do nothing but help all of us. You know what I mean? And again, it doesn't matter what state you live in. It's frustrating when you hear that argument. To a point, I understand it, but at the same time, we have to get rid of that. That has to go away. It doesn't matter if they're not if they're keeping a tally sheet. Okay, that's 16 residents and 7,000 non-residents. They're going to get sick of hearing the non-residents calling and sending emails. Also, it all helps.
It all helps.
You know what I mean?
It all helps, and it's irrelevant when it comes to our brothers and sisters out there that are hunters. It doesn't matter what state you're in. If I don't know, you had made the point this, maybe some people get frustrated with that. I've seen that too. In fact, I saw that tonight on social media. My buddy Mike was posting something about this Howl For Wildlife, and somebody kind of made a smart ass comment that, well, it's not my problem kind of thing. And that's a sad state of affairs for somebody to have, because what people like that don't understand is when hunters in California or Arizona or Washington or Colorado are affected in that way, that makes it easier for us in the states that aren't affected today get affected tomorrow. It sets the precedent that we don't want set. These are the precedents that we have to stop. We have to stop them in their tracks before they move everywhere else. And if some crazy HSUS submitted, a petition in the state of Idaho, I would want my friends in Texas and my friends in California and my friends in Arizona and even Canada, which, by the way, we've got some friends in Canada that are fired up and they want to help. They're there for us. We need to have their back as well. So
they've suffered losses lately too.
They have suffered major losses, and I think that one of the reasons they get so fired up and they're so into some of the legislation action items that are taking place down here in the States is because they've been there, they've done that, they've watched this, they've watched a lot of their hunting rights get taken away from them, and so we've got friends up there and they need our help. And it just I can't get on board with this mentality that this is a California issue, we need to forget about it. This is a Washington issue, we need to forget about it. It's not my problem. No, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to take 30 seconds of my life to write my first last name and send an email. Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's just part of the problem, man. It's part of the problem, and we got to fix this problem. It's a long road.
Erase the state. We need to erase the state, and from now on, it just needs to be a hunting issue.
Yeah,
and that's it. Yep. That's how we have to look at it. I mean, it's or it's going to be your issue. That's the only way to see it.
I'll just never understand that mentality, and I'll just never give up on trying to make right all these wrongs, I guess, is one way to say it. This has got to be top of mind for all hunters. I know that right now it's January. We're all buried in snow, except for you folks down in. You got snow where you live in California?
I'm at like I might be over 100 feet. I think I'm at like 115 feet above sea level, so it's got to get pretty bad before I get snow. I did get to go play in it a little bit this year.
Oh yeah,
I got to hunt like a day in it, and it was more exciting than I bargained for. Actually, I had to change my plans because I couldn't get to where I wanted to go because of the amount of snow. But yeah, no, it's not a regular thing here. So, but yeah,
you can come up to my place and play in it right now if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. You got more than you need, right?
Bring a snow shovel.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on, man. That was a good conversation, and I think this is just kind of the introduction to a lot of things coming down as we kind of roll into this new year. This is a good way to introduce a lot of these issues and talk about Howl for Wildlife. Is there anything you want to add about Howl for Wildlife or anything along this topic?
Put it, if you would, I mean, I'm sure you will, but put it in the show notes or whatever, but howl_org on Instagram is the, he made a page for it and everything when he launched it. If anybody's got, you want help spreading the word on, I don't care what it is, you know what I mean? If they're trying to, ban pigeon hunting with wrist rockets in your state, tell me, and I will spread it as wide as I can. You know what I mean? It's just God,
that sounds like fun, man. I'd go pigeon hunting with a wrist rocket.
Let's do it, right? Let's
try that.
If it's legal, I'm 100% your cheerleader for it, and that's the way more of us need to start looking at things. But if knowing who, it's kind of even further than developing a kind of a circle of people, you know what I mean? Just knowing who, like, hey, there's a problem, like, get it, just spread it to these people, they'll spread it, and it'll just keep spreading. And then we get the reactions that we need, and, and we keep these things instead of having to try to get them back.
Yeah.
And once we get that figured out, we can actually start to try to get some of this stuff that we've already lost back. You know what I mean? A couple of victories in squashing some of these ballots, and presenting science well. We can, I would love to see California be able to hunt mountain lions again.
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll ever happen in my lifetime, but I mean, It sounds good, right? I can hold my breath and cross my fingers, and until then,
I mean,
I'll be
why
chasing
not?
them once I
Why
get up to
not?
Idaho.
We can do this. We can get California turned around in terms of the hunting stuff. I can't tell you that it'll ever be a well, that's bringing politics into it. You're going to always be some crazy blue left-wing nutcase state, okay? I'll just say it. But hey, we can get some of this other stuff turned around. I really do. I believe that. I believe that there is enough hunters. When you talk about the actual amount of dedicated hunters out there in terms of population, I believe that we outnumber the activist anti-hunters. I believe that.
Yes.
And the reason why I believe that is because that is the long-standing traditional way of life for a lot of Americans. Anti-hunting is an activism thing. These are extremist people. They have extremist views, and I feel like, in my opinion, they lack other things, and so they have to like make up, and I don't know if it's an ego thing or a self-importance thing. They have to find ways to fulfill themselves because their souls have holes in them. And that is not the case for a hunter. Hunters are not, by nature, activists or extremists. We're just hunters. We're just people that like to hunt. We're passionate about hunting. We know why.
We want to be left alone, and we want to go for a long walk in the woods.
Exactly. We want to live our life the way we want it. We want to do it, and we don't want to be told that we can't. And that's it. And so I always think of the quote, and I'm going to totally draw a blank on the name, but after Pearl Harbor, the captain, the commander of the Japanese naval fleet that was out, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, what they considered a success, they're having like this, celebration on one of the ships. But the commander was sitting there super quiet, and I used to know his name. I used to know that kind of stuff like crazy because I was a dork. But I still am. I just am rusty at it. But he's sitting there alone and all quiet, and everybody's celebrating, and they're popping champagne bottles, and we just whooped up on the American Navy there at Pearl Harbor, and blah blah blah. And then somebody finally walks up to the commander, and they've got this look of concern on their face, and they ask him, Commander, what's the matter? How come you're not celebrating with everybody else? And he looks up and he says, because I believe we just woke a sleeping giant. And he was right. They attacked the sleeping giant. And I believe that on a very obviously a smaller scale, and a much less violent scale, this can be similar. The anti-hunters perhaps have woken, and you could, if you look back through this past year since SB 252, it's pretty evident they've woken a sleeping giant, and I believe that the strength and the unification and the allied togetherness, if that's a word, of what hunters can bring to the table, and the fight that they have within their hearts and souls when it comes to our lifestyle as hunters, I think there's a lot of it in there, and we have a lot of work to do, and they're up to the task. We just got to bring it to the table so that everybody's there and everybody can make an impact. So again, brother, I appreciate it, man. This stuff, I'm super passionate about it. I appreciate guys like you that are also passionate about it. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of people making a big difference. That I've noticed you've been super active with this. Did you say his name was Charles that made the website?
Yeah, it's Charles. What is it? Watma? I can never remember his last name. Hold on, I looked it up.
Whatever his last name
Charles
is.
Whitwam.
Okay, and I appreciate Charles and the work. So if you listen to this, Charles, I appreciate the work that you put into this website. I mean, I'm looking at this website, and as a guy who has to pay for his own website and have all that design, this is a very well done website. It works. There's no bugs in it that I could see. This is legitimate stuff here. So nice job, Charles. I'd love you to come on the show if you're listening. Other people, there's David Bowes out there. There's Joel Swecker. There's Mike Hers. Even my buddy Jason Phelps out there making some noise over all this stuff going on. There's too many to list on this, but I just appreciate everybody coming together for a joint effort like this at what we're seeing, and I think that there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this in terms of the future of hunting. And Chris, any closing thoughts, brother?
No, just, we're all hunters. Dissolve the state lines. Stop looking at the non-residents like they're like they're screwing stuff up for you. You know, we're all hunters. You know, throw your buddy from on the other side of the state line a bone, and just, you know, let's start building long distance relationships and friendships, and be there to support each other. I mean, this is all of our fight, and it will be all of our loss if we do not come together.
And it'll be all of our victory when we do come together and make this shit happen, man. And we'll all be able to pat each other on the back. Great point. All right, man. Well, thanks again. Everybody, like Chris, you had mentioned, you had asked me, yes, this will all be in the show notes. The howlforwildlife.org website, it'll be in the show notes. Jump on there and create a free account and sign the Take Action items that are listed on the Take Action tab there. Definitely give them a follow on Instagram. Chris, what's your Instagram handle again?
Elpis_Chris.
Okay, I'll put that in there in the show notes too. So we'll have the Howl For Wildlife website and Instagram and your Instagram in the show notes for anybody, you know, jump in there and follow along with everybody. So we're all, you know, again, just a rising tide raises all ships. Just keep that in mind. So thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.